Never set foot in any hair salon again after seeing this haunting truth at 3 a.m. The clock strikes 3, and the world outside was wrapped in a blanket of stillness. Yet, deep within the heart of the city, a hidden beauty salon flickered with unnatural light, casting eerie shadows across the street. Rumors had always swirled about this place, the kind that sent chills down spines and quickened heartbeats. Some called it a sanctuary of style, but those who left never spoke of what they experienced inside, just hushed whispers and nervous laughter. As night creatures roamed the darkness, one haunting fact lingered like a ghost. Customers who entered often came out changed, whether it be their hair or their very essence. Just last week, Rachel, a bubbly woman with a penchant for pink highlights, had walked through those doors. Hours later, she emerged with hair as wild as a tempest, and a gaze that pierced the soul. What had happened to her inside? Friends reported she muttered incoherently, speaking of mirrors that reflected ominous truths and scissors that seemed to dance of their own accord. Tension weaved through the air like a thick fog, thickening and darkening as tales grew wilder. One night, at the witching hour, Jake the local skeptic decided to test the waters. He swaggered into the dimly lit salon, chuckling under his breath. What could possibly go wrong? He scoffed as the door creaked open, but when he stepped inside, a horrifying silence greeted him. The chandeliers flickered, and the smell of lavender mixed with something metallic hung in the air, making his stomach churn. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Returning to Jake. His bravado slipped as he noticed the mirrors on the walls seemed to ripple, bending reality. It wasn't just a salon. It was a realm that defied explanation. As he sat in the chair, the stylist approached him, eyes as dark as midnight. "You ready for a transformation?" she asked, her voice low and melodic yet sending shivers down his spine. Jake's heartbeat quickened. Everything began to blur. The scissors glinted ominously under the harsh lights, and the stylist's smile turned predatory. For a moment, the room spun and twisted. What once was laughter morphed into muffled screams from beyond the mirrors. Were they taunts or warnings? As he gazed into the glass, he could feel a pull, a losing battle of will as the truth clawed at the edges of his mind, whispering secrets he was never meant to know. And then, just like that, the lights went out. Darkness consumed the room. Silence fell heavy. All that remained was the chilling echo of his own breath, mingling with an underlying hum of tension that threatened to explode. What would happen next? What lay behind that curtain of shadow? Jake felt the air thicken around him, a heavy shroud that pressed against his skin. The absence of light had transformed the once inviting space into a den of shadows. His mind raced. Where had the stylist gone? Was he alone? The silence was suffocating. He could hear his heart hammering in his chest, pulsing like a warning signal. Every slight rustle felt magnified. And then, a soft whisper crept through the darkness, barely audible yet eerily familiar, almost like Rachel's voice. "Help me," he blinked into the void, straining his eyes as if to conjure the faintest glimmer of light. The darkness danced, behaving like a living thing, swirling and pulsating around him. He clenched the chair's arms, desperate to anchor himself against the rising tide of panic. Suddenly, a sudden burst of light illuminated the salon for just a heartbeat. In that fleeting moment, Jake saw reflections. Not just his own, but faces twisted in agony, eyes wide with terror. They gazed back at him from every mirror, frozen in screams, their lips moving silently. "What the hell?" he gasped, the words tumbling out in shock. He struggled to rise from the chair, but the seat seemed to constrict, refusing to release its grip. The intoxicating fragrance of lavender now mingled sickeningly with the acrid scent of fear. Where was the exit? His thoughts spiraled back to Rachel. What had she seen? What had she done? The sound of scissors snapping echoed in the dark, sharper than thunder against the quiet. An inexplicable dread clawed at him, rendering him immobile. Then, a soft glow returned. It illuminated the stylist, now standing a mere inches from him, her face unreadable yet mesmerizing. Transformation awaits. Jake, she murmured, her voice both inviting and chilling. You must choose what? He croaked, desperation flooding his voice like a tidal wave. I don't want anything from you. Her smile widened, illuminating the cold, metallic glint of the scissors in her hand. Life or death, beauty or decay, everyone must decide. As she spoke, he could almost feel the weight of her words. The room shivered, as though reality itself bent under the force of her choice. Sweat beaded on Jake's forehead as he struggled to comprehend the implications of her offer. With newfound strength, he yanked at the chair, the leather creaking under the pressure. The lights flickered erratically. What was he willing to sacrifice to escape? Do you think you can leave? The stylist's tone turned sharper, her patience slipping as shadows thickened around her like lurking predators. Once you enter my realm, you're never truly free. Fear coursed through him like an electric shock. With a final surge, Jake wrenched himself from the chair and stumbled back, colliding with one of the mirrors. To his horror, the reflection shifted. He was staring at a representation of himself, but distorted, hair twisted into wild shapes, eyes drilled deeper into madness. He felt trapped in a nightmare of his own making. He had to know what had happened to Rachel. The lights flicked out again. In that blackness, confusion reigned. But then suddenly a different voice echoed through the dark. You have to break the glass. Jake's heart raced at the new urgency. Who was that? Could it be Rachel? With desperation clawing at him, he began slamming his fists against the mirror, the force of his pulse matching the cacophony of cracked glass. The room trembled around him, and then an explosion of light. Shards flew everywhere as he screamed. I want to stay. I choose to escape. But the shadows recoiled, threatening to pull him back into the void. What lay on the other side of the glass? Freedom or doom? As he crossed the threshold, the world shimmered and shifted. Feet unsteady, he blinked against the blinding light. What awaited him on the other side? The unknown was now closer than ever. But in which direction did salvation lie? Jake took a deep breath, ready for whatever would come next. What had he unleashed by breaking the glass? His heart ached with questions unanswered. The echoes of the past were still, calling him. Would he truly escape? Jake stumbled forward, the air around him a jarring mix of burning brightness and a chilling dread. He squinted, trying to piece together his surroundings. Everything felt different. The salon was gone, replaced by a dim corridor lined with cracked wooden doors. Each door stood slightly ajar, as if beckoning him to explore the horrors hidden within. The whispers from the darkness persisted, curling around him like smoke. Helpless bowls of curlers, remnants of hair dye, and abandoned salon chairs littered the ground, signs of a chaotic struggle interrupted by his chaotic flight. He hesitated, heart hammering just beneath his rib cage like a caged animal. Would Rachel emerge from one of those doors? As he stepped cautiously, the flickering overhead lights swung ominously. His breath quickened, everything felt alive, pulsating in eerie rhythm. With each footfall, he could feel the weight of eyes lurking from the shadows. Someone or something watched him. The first door he approached creaked open, darkness yawning wide. He peered in, stomach twisting. Inside, the scent of smoke mixed with something malodorous. On the floor lay remnants of hair, long, wild strands, interwoven with splatters of dark red. Panic settled in like a cold hand around his throat. Rachel, he croaked, voice barely a whisper. No answer. Just the drumming of his pulse in his ears and the soft thrum of whispers. Louder now. They seemed to call to him, urging him to step inside. He moved faster down the corridor, driven by a visceral need to understand the depth of this nightmare. Each door he passed seemed to resonate, vibrating with an energy he couldn't comprehend. Then, just ahead, a brightly lit sign flickered. Salon of Transformation. Jake halted, dread curling in his stomach like an indomitable serpent. The previous stylist's words echoed in his mind. Everyone must decide. What was the choice he faced? Maybe it wasn't just his life at stake. His heart thrummed for Rachel. Would she be beyond that door? Or was it another trap laid by the darkness consuming this place? He gritted his teeth and pushed the door open. The instant he did, the lights dimmed, and the world around him shifted to that familiar salon space. But it was corrupted, warped. Chairs faced away from the mirrors, and in those reflections, he saw not just his own terrified face but shadows of lost souls, phantom figures with long hair, their faces twisted in agony. "Help us!" they howled, a cacophony echoing through the air. Jake stepped back instinctively, heart racing as a cold breeze swept through him, carrying voices that clawed at his mind. "Join us, stay with us," he shook his head vigorously. This couldn't be real. The memories of the stylist flooded back the choices, the ominous transformations masquerading as beauty. Desperation gnawed at him. Jake took another step toward the center of the room, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Rachel," he called out, needing to pierce through the chaos. And then silence. The air thickened with anticipation. A chill settled around him like fingers wrapping tightly around his throat. Out of nowhere, a single chair slid across the floor, stopping just before him. "Your seat awaits, Jake," a voice whispered from the shadows, that same icy voice from before. His blood turned to ice. Confusion clung to him. What happened next? Would he take the seat, or run? As he struggled with the decision, the air shifted around him. The whispering intensified, shadows coiling tight. Choose, Jake, or lose her forever. With his heart pounding, he realized the truth that lodged itself deep within him. This was no ordinary choice. This was about him, Rachel, and the darkness that wanted to swallow them both whole. But what if he chose wrong? The lights flickered again, the shadows drew closer, hungry and relentless. He had to think fast. In this twisted game, was there truly any escape? His eyes darted to the shadows, to the door now closing behind him. Should he confront this darkness head-on? Or would that seal their fates? Around him, the air thickened with a looming decision, and he knew something was about to break. Jake's breath shattered the stillness, a sharp gasp in the enveloping darkness. The chair, the seat that had mysteriously slid forward, seemed to pulse with an urgency of its own, taunting him. He fought to quell the tremor in his hands. "Choose," the voice intoned again, a low whisper like ice skimming over his skin. It was as if the shadows themselves had come alive, converging upon him, urging him to give in to whatever sinister fate awaited. An idea took root in his mind. If he didn't sit, if he defied this nightmare, would Rachel be safe? "Rachel," he shouted once more, desperation tinged with hope. "I'm coming for you." The darkness rippled, a wave of swirling shadows that fluttered like moths around a flame. The whispers grew louder, melding into a piercing chorus. "Stay with us, join us." He staggered backward, aware more than ever that every moment counted. Panic surged, twisting in his gut like a serpent coiling, squeezing the breath from his lungs. "This isn't real," he muttered fiercely. "You're not real." As he backed away, the shadows surged forward in response, morphing into twisted faces, haunted, twisted souls reaching out, their mouths agape in silent cries. He stumbled past the chair, resolving to forge a path out before he was consumed. Then he saw movement behind the mirrors. Flickers of light danced in the glass. He squinted, trying to discern shapes, and that's when he saw her. Rachel, a ghostly reflection trapped within the glass, her expression contorted in terror. She banged against the barrier, but no sound came, only the echoing silence of despair. "Jake!" Her eyes were wide, pleading. "Help me! I can't get out." A jolt shot through him. Each word ignited a flame of fury, fierce enough to drown out the whispers that sought to pull him back. "I'm coming!" he yelled, determination surging in his chest. With newfound courage, he lunged toward the mirrors, ignoring the malicious shadows clawing at him. "You one T take her." His fists hammered against the glass. The surface rippled as if shaking off raindrops, creating a portal that shimmered beneath his fists. He could see Rachel's despairing face grow clearer. The smell of smoke intensified, mixing with the bitter metallic tang of fear, flooding the air around him. "No!" A voice boomed from deep within the darkness, cutting through his resolve. "You cannot save her. You must choose." Jake swiveled to face the source, a figure emerging from the deepest shadows. It was the stylist, her face a contorted mask of menace, hair flowing like black ink, eyes glowing with an unsettling light. "The chair is your choice, Jake. Beauty comes at a price. You can end your pain if you let me transform you." "No!" he shouted, the word breaking in a primal scream. "I want to become one of you." It was then he realized this was a test of will. The whispers morphed into a cacophony of distorted laughter, surrounding him and mocking his determination. The shadows lunged forward, reaching with greed, and Jake stumbled against the mirrors, feeling the warmth of desperation radiating from Rachel's side. In that moment, something shifted. The glass sparked with a surge of light like a kamikaze flare. "Grab my hand," Rachel shouted, her voice raw with urgency. He reached out, fingers brushing against the surface. The contact sent shivers through him, a pulse that felt alive. Uncertainty battled with resolve in his heart. Could she really escape? Or would touching the glass seal their fates forever? The figure lurked closer, the stylist's grin widening, all too certain. "You cannot escape, Jake. Everyone meets their destiny." Jake faced the murk of her laughter, the shadows converging, claws outstretched. He couldn't lose Rachel. Not now. Not ever. His thoughts raced. "Just one more second," he urged, heart hammering, emotions spiraling. He could almost feel her touch, that familiar warmth, and with a guttural roar, he plunged forward toward the glass, ready to shatter the very darkness surrounding them both. Would the glass break, or would they be ensnared forever? He had to choose, and fast. But would the dark fate awaiting them be worth the risk? Jake's fist connected with the glass, and a brilliant flash erupted, blinding him momentarily. He felt the heaviness of the shadows release, if only for a heartbeat. A gasp escaped his lips, and when the light dimmed, something shifted behind him. The swirling darkness froze. Everything was silent. The twisted faces dissolved into nothingness, and the cackling laughter ebbed like the tide receding from a dark shore. Jake turned to face Rachel once more, hope flickering in his chest. She was still there, her eyes wide with disbelief, the frayed edges of her spirit shimmering against the glass. "Jake, please!" she cried, urgency thick in her tone. "You have to break through. They're coming for you. Hold on," he yelled, determination solidifying within him. He pulled back his hand, readying himself for another strike. But the stylist's laughter floated from the inky depths behind him. "Foolish boy." Her voice twisted around him, cold and scornful. "Do you really think you can save her? I own her. She's just another form of beauty to be trapped forever in my creation." Without warning, the mirrors began to ripple again. This time, the surface darkened as shadows surged like a tidal wave, thrumming with malevolent energy. The very air thickened, whispers racing like a storm. "Give in, join us." "No," Jake shouted, shaking his head furiously. Sweat trickled down his brow, a reminder of the precious seconds slipping away. He fought against the shadows clawing at him. Each scratch felt like nails against his skin, a painful reminder of the cost of failure. He could see Rachel's pain reflected there, fear and desperation pooling in her gaze. They needed action, a plan, something more than blind strength. What if he could manipulate the energy around him? What if he could turn the tides? With a deep breath, he focused. "Rachel, you need to believe. We can break this together." He reached for the glass once more, not with raw force but with intent, channeling everything they shared, their laughter, their dreams, their love. Jake, her breath caught, uncertainty lacing her voice. "I'll pull us both through." He felt the heat of their connection, a lifeline tethering them across the abyss. His heart thumped in sync with hers, and he slammed his palms against the glass again, but this time, it was not just a strike. It was a bond, a union of their spirits. The glass erupted into a cascade of light and shards that shimmered like stars across a night sky. The shadows screamed as they were pulled back, collapsing in on themselves as the warmth of their bond radiated outwards. Then silence, an eerie calm. But the moment was fleeting. In an instant, a chill swept through Jake, overwhelming the warmth of their connection. The stylist loomed now, her face twisted in uncontrollable rage. You think you can escape the inevitable? Jake's resolve wavered. The shadows reeled, desperate to clutch him back, but he refused to yield. Rachel, now, we have to leap together. He felt her hand find his, a jolt sparking their combined strength. As they surged toward the glass, the world exploded in blinding light, swirling, reshaping. Then a crack. Jake felt a sudden pull, a grounding beneath his feet, as they were thrust through. But moments before his surroundings solidified, he caught a glimpse of the stylist, her eyes darkening, her expression morphing into one of chilling glee. Your choice was foolish. You've only just begun to pay your price. With a final tug, Jake and Rachel landed hard on a cold, grimy floor, disoriented and gasping for breath. The light dimmed, but ahead loomed a doorway, an ominous threshold into the unknown. Are you okay? Jake's voice was a mere whisper, his heart thundering in his chest. But deep within him, a fear grew, coiling tight. What had they truly escaped? Rachel looked up, her face a canvas of confusion and new terror. What if we're still not free? As her words hung heavy in the air, the sound of laughter echoed behind them, trailing like smoke. A dark figure emerged from the growing shadows. Welcome back, dear friends. A smooth voice slithered through the air. The real game has only just begun. Jake's skin prickled with dread. They hadn't just stepped into safety. They had stepped deeper into the nightmare. Could they confront whatever was lurking in the unknown? Or had they sealed their fate? And what would the true cost of their escape be? The door creaked ominously as it swung open, revealing a dimly lit hallway that stretched endlessly. The walls pulsed with shadow, twisted artworks flickering in and out of view, creating a disorienting effect that made Jake's stomach churn. Rachel clutched his arm tighter, her grip nearly sending jolts of pain through him. But he focused on the weight of her presence, anchoring him to reality. Jake, we shouldn't be here, she said, her voice trembling. The shadows seemed to whisper back, taunting them, you can never leave. Ignoring the rising dread in his chest, Jake took a deep breath and stepped through the threshold. His heart pounding, afraid to look back at what might be lurking in the darkness behind them. But he could feel it, an oppressive weight pressing down, watching, waiting as they ventured deeper into the hallway. Flickering lights overhead cast erratic shadows that danced as if alive. Where do you think this leads? Jake asked, trying to mask his fear with curiosity. Rachel's eyes darted around, haunted by every creak and scratch emanating from the walls. The laughter they heard earlier still echoed, a haunting melody of amusement that twisted his insides. I don't know, she whispered, apprehension thickening her tone. But I have a feeling it's not good. They moved cautiously, the air growing colder with each step. Jake felt the strange sensation of being pulled in every direction at once, as though the hallway itself were alive. Suddenly, a door on their left swung open with a force that sent a chill down his spine. A burst of cold air greeted them, accompanied by a wave of laughter that vibrated through his bones. Step inside if you dare. A voice beckoned, sultry and sinister, echoing through the corridor. For a brief moment, Jake hesitated. We should keep moving, he suggested, already feeling the lure of the promises from within that room. But Rachel hesitated. What if there's a way out in there? What if this is just another trick? The uncertainty on her face was palpable. He could see the struggle between safety and curiosity lacing her every feature. Let us check it out quickly, Jake replied, yielding to the growing desperation creeping into his voice. It felt like they had no choice but to confront whatever lay behind that door. Together, they stepped inside. The room was a stark contrast to the hallway, a salon, illuminated by eerie, flickering lights that painted everything in ghostly hues. Mirrors lined the walls, their reflective surfaces muddled and cracked, distorting their images into grotesque shapes. At the center, a salon chair faced away from them, and a voice beckoned softly, almost sweetly from the shadows behind it. "Sit and let us reveal the truth." The voice dripped with malice, and Jake felt a cold sweat bead on his forehead. Rachel's eyes widened, filled with terror. "Jake!" she gasped. "What do we do?" "Run!" he shouted, but before they could turn to escape, the door slammed shut, sealing them inside. The mirrors around them trembled, revealing fleeting glimpses of figures trapped within faces twisted in horror, mouths agape in silent screams. Jake's heart raced as he realized the truth. These people, they didn't escape like we did. Suddenly, the chair began to turn slowly. From the shadows, a figure emerged, cloaked in darkness, features obscured, but the sinister smile was unmistakable. "You cannot escape your fate, dear children. Get away from her," Jake shouted, stepping in front of Rachel, instinctively shielding her. But before a move could be made, laughter erupted around them, drenching the room in a cacophony of dark joy. The air thickened, shadows began to swirl. The stylist's eyes glinted with madness, a predatory spark igniting in the depths. "Now you will discover the true cost of your escape." Jake felt something inside him shatter. He wasn't just fighting for their lives. He was about to confront an evil far more twisted than he could have ever imagined. With a surge of adrenaline, he grabbed Rachel's hand and yelled, "We need to fight back, now!" Just as he felt the shadows pressing in, ready to consume them, he realized there was something powerful within them that the darkness wanted to extinguish. "Together," he shouted, "we can break this." But even as he said those words, the looming figure's grin widened, and the laughter morphed into screams of torment that echoed from the mirrors. What awaited them in this dark world? And could their bond be strong enough to combat the sinister forces enclosing around them, or would they become just another pair of trapped souls within these wicked walls? The shadows surged around them, a living blanket of terror, as the sinister figure stepped closer. Jake's heart raced, a pulsing drum of adrenaline urging him to act. He could feel Rachel's breath quickening beside him, the echo of her fear striking his chest like a hammer. "Fight or flight," Jake shouted over the oppressive laughter, trying to drown out the chaos swirling around them. "We choose to fight." The figure before them adjusted its grip on the arm of the chair, revealing pale, mottled skin and talon-like fingers that stretched and curled with delight. "Oh children, you don't understand," it cooed. "This is not merely a fight, it's a transformation." A burst of cracked laughter erupted, sending ice through Jake's veins. He shot a frantic glance at Rachel. "We'll find a way out," he whispered, but doubt gnawed at his gut. They had seconds to make a choice that could seal their fates. The mirrors flickered, reflecting different versions of themselves, horrifying, monstrous alterations of their features. They weren't merely reflections. They were echoes of what could become them. Jake felt dizzy with the swirling images, his grasp on reality slipping. "Look," Rachel breathed, pointing toward a particularly distorted mirror. A glimpse of herself cried silently, her mouth shaping a wordless scream. "That's what happens to people trapped here." "Don't believe it," Jake hollered, pulling her closer as he stood tall, defiance radiating from him. "It wants us to give in." The figure sneered, a grotesque smile splitting its face. "Oh, how brave! But bravery won't save you from the truth." It waved a hand, and the room shifted, growing darker, the shadows coiling tighter. "Your greatest fears will soon become reality." Jake felt a chill creep into his bones, threatening to shatter his resolve. Was it true? Would they become those twisted faces in the mirrors? The laughter morphed into cries of despair, agonizing sounds that echoed through the room. "No, we are not afraid," he yelled, though his voice quivered. As if sensing their determination, the figure momentarily faltered. Just then, something deep inside Jake sparked an ember of courage. He and Rachel faced the nightmare together, and with every ounce of strength, Jake squeezed her hand, reassuringly. Remember why we came here, he urged, his mind racing. We didn't come just to see how deep the darkness goes. We came to find freedom. The word hung in the air, shimmering for a moment, a flicker of hope against despair. With the figure's attention split, Jake launched himself forward toward the mirrors, feeling an unnatural force pulling him back. I'm not letting this thing take us. He grabbed hold of one of the mirrors, its surface rippling under his touch. Jake, wait! Rachel shouted, panic flooding her voice. But he pushed past her cries, determined to break through the barrier. He felt the cold lapping at him as he spread his arms wide, fighting against the shadows that clawed at him. Suddenly, the figure erupted into shrieks of outrage. You dare defy me? It shrieked as the shadows recoiled momentarily, showing a path through the mirrored chaos. Rachel, now! Jake yelled, lunging back toward her, pulling her forward. They dashed toward the faint glimmer of light that was emerging from beyond the mirrors, believing that hope was within their grasp as they barreled toward the light. The room quaked, the mirrors cracking and shattering, their screams amplifying into a deafening roar. No, you can't leave. The figure's wail filled the room, shaking Jake to his core. Just as they reached the edge of the light, they turned to face the chaos behind them. A twisted hand shot out from the shadows, reaching for Rachel, desperate to drag her back into the nightmare. Jake! She screamed, struggling against the dark pull, her eyes wide with fear. In that moment, Jake understood what they were truly fighting for. It wasn't just survival. It was the very essence of who they were, the strength of their bond. With a surge of emotion, he grasped her hand tightly, shouting, "Together!" But even as they rushed into the abyss of light, Jake could feel the shadows stretching toward them, determined not to let go. What danger awaited them outside? Would they even escape this cursed place? Or had they just traded one nightmare for another? The moment they burst free into the light, Jake felt an electric shock wave rip through him. It was a fresh start or an unforeseen danger, he couldn't tell. They landed in a cold, deserted hallway, fluorescent lights flickering above like stuttering fireflies. The air was thick with the scent of hair products and faintly familiar, yet ominous. Rachel wrenched her hand from Jake's grip to steady herself against a wall, her breath coming in gasps. What just happened? She murmured, looking around wildly. Her face was pale, a ghostly reflection of the horror they had just escaped. I don't know, Jake replied, bewilderment pooling in his gut. An uneasy sense of déjà vu crept over him, making him tense. They were in a hair salon, the remnants of beauty and chaos blending together in a disturbing tableau. What were they doing here? Echoing laughter slithered down the hallway, chilling their already fragile state. Jake squinted, straining to see where it was coming from. Another flicker erupted above them, plunging them momentarily into darkness. When the light returned, they stood before a massive mirror, one that shimmered with an eerie light. Could this be another trap? Rachel asked, a tremor running through her voice. No, it feels different, Jake replied, rooted to the spot. The mirror pulsated, revealing hazy silhouettes moving in and out of focus. They were caught between two worlds, a bridge of reality and the haunting despair they had narrowly escaped. Sudden screams echoed from the back of the salon, tearing through the air. Rachel, we need to move. Jake yanked her toward the source. They rushed past salon chairs, the soft fabric stained, a reminder of unfulfilled beauty, while broken mirrors lined the walls like shards of shattered dreams. As they approached the rear of the salon, the screams morphed into distorted whispers, feeding on their fear. You can't escape, they'll always come for you, you'll never be free. Rachel shivered, glancing over her shoulder, haunted by imagined figures lurking behind her. What are they talking about, Jake? Who's coming for us? Before he could respond, a figure stepped out from the shadows. It was familiar yet grotesque, a reflection of the figure they had encountered in the darkness. Its eyes glinted with a malevolent hunger, and its mouth twisted into a cruel smile, a reminder of their fears manifested before them. They will take your essence, it hissed, voice dripping with malice. You thought you escaped, but every shadow you fled carries a piece of you. Jake clenched his fists, heart hammering. We are not what you want. We won let you win. The creature laughed, the sound echoing off the walls, reverberating in his bones. Let us see about that. It gestured, and the salon erupted into chaos and a heartbeat. The mirrors thickened, reflecting not just their physical forms but their vulnerabilities, fears, anxieties, and regrets poured out in wave after wave, threatening to drown them. Memories danced in the glass, mocking and twisting into monstrous forms. No, don't listen, Jake yelled, raw desperation leaking into his voice. He reached for Rachel, standing firm against the tide of darkness. Stay with me. But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. Was he really strong enough to fight this? Could they truly overcome the part of themselves that the shadows represented? In that instant, something shifted in Rachel's eyes. A new fierceness ignited. Together, remember? She shouted, the sound cutting through the chaos. As their hands clasped again, a surge of light exploded from the connection, more radiant than before, forcing a cacophony of shadows back. Yet, the fear loomed ever closer, unstoppable, relentless. Just as Jake felt the shadows recede slightly, another figure appeared behind the one in front. A monstrous scale, distortion, clawing its way into an unsettling grin. There was more to this evil than they realized. Welcome to your true nightmare, it bellowed, and the salon flickered between reality and dreamlike horrors once more. Jake could feel their bond being stretched, pulling them tighter against unknown horrors. Would they stand strong together, or would the shadows consume them? What's south beyond this place? He whispered, half to himself, as a new dread filled his heart. The figure lunged forward, darkness swirling in its wake. As Jake braced himself, he knew that he had to find out what twisted reality awaited them next, and how deep the horrors ran beneath the surface. The figure lunged, and the air crackled with a harsh, electric tension. Jake felt its icy breath against his skin, a sensation that made him want to recoil, but he held ground. Rachel's grip tightened around his hand, a small comfort in the chaos. Get back, Jake shouted, his voice booming in the salon's distorted atmosphere. Even as he spoke, the laughter of shadows dissolved into silence, making the moment feel even more foreboding. The creature's eyes flared, swirling with darkness. You think you can outshine the essence of your fears? It scoffed, words hissing like steam from a kettle. Your strength is but a flicker in the overwhelming night. The walls around them began to warp, stretching and bending as if the very air was alive. Beneath their feet, the floor groaned in protest, tiles curling back like endless waves retreating from a shore. Jake's heart raced, every beat echoing in his ears, drowning out reason. Together, Rachel shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos, resolute and ringing clear. Remember our pact, Jake. She lifted her chin, determination firing in her eyes. It was a spark against an encroaching storm. Yes. Together, Jake's own voice surged with spirit, and as they stood shoulder to shoulder, light seeped from their joined hands, illuminating their surroundings like the first rays of dawn. Their fears twisted behind them, agonized faces flailing in the light, desperate for escape. Enough! The creature roared, a sound like shattering glass. It bared its twisted teeth, darkness swirling like a tempest around its form. You cannot defy your own shadows. As the creature pressed in, Jake felt the memories he had buried come rushing up, each one a haunting echo of regret. Mistakes, lost friendships, and moments of weakness took shape. Stand firm, he yelled, fighting against the tide of his own thoughts. Then came a voice soft, almost a whisper. It belonged to someone he knew all too well. You can't outrun yourself forever. Jake, it was his younger self, the boy who feared not being good enough. He cringed, the voice piercing through his defenses. Rachel sensed it too. She whispered fiercely, don't listen. We're not defined by our past. As if compelled by that declaration, the overwhelming darkness hesitated. The shadows writhed, and in that moment of uncertainty, Jake swung back to Rachel, searching her eyes for confidence. We have to face it, Rachel urged, and in her fierce gaze, Jake saw a glimmer of unwavering hope. It flickered like a candle's flame, but it was strong enough to chase away the chill. He nodded. Channeling their resilience, they erupted forward, hearts pounding as they charged toward the fray, hand in hand. The light between them shattered the darkness, casting an ethereal glow against the horrors. They were determined to break free from the grip of fear. But even as they surged forward, they found themselves ensnared in a strange vortex. The salon twisted around them, the spatial reality bending as if they were caught in a dream. Everything blurred. The lines of the mirrors melted into swirling pools of uncertainty. Panic swelled again, twisting Jake's stomach. "What is happening?" he gasped, trying to fight off the whirlpool of despair. Figures loomed large, faces of hate and grief closing in, and he could feel the bonds snapping, fraying against the pressure. "We can't let go, Rachel. We can't let them win." He felt a surge of desperation, afraid they would be swallowed whole by the shadows. But Rachel took a step closer, eyes narrowing on the deepest darkness surrounding them. And just as everything seemed ready to collapse, the massive mirror burst apart, spilling forth surreal light. It split their tormentor into countless pieces, each fragment reflecting the fears that had haunted them, but now made small and manageable. But their victory was short-lived. From the crack of the mirror, an unfamiliar, shadowy hand emerged, cold and unyielding, reaching for them with purpose. "Your true horror awaits," it murmured, the voice echoing like wind rattling through an empty house. Jake could only stare at the incoming dread, heart pounding wildly, the darkness expanding, ready to reclaim what it had lost. What lay beyond the threshold of that shattered mirror? Would they face another layer of torment? Or would this be the unraveling of everything they fought for? The uncertainty hung heavy in the air, suffocating yet electrifying. The real battle had only just begun. Jake's heart raced as the shadowy hand plunged closer. It was all-consuming terror, the horrors morphing into something far worse. He could feel the darkness wrapping around him, pulling him toward the chaos of uncertainty. Then Rachel stepped forward, breaking all restraints. "No," she yelled, voice cutting through the thick air like a knife. The clarity in her tone seemed to pierce the enveloping shadows. She faced the hand, unwavering. "We choose to stand together. You can't take us." The grip of darkness faltered, just for a heartbeat. Jake seized that moment of hesitation, feeling the pulse of determination swell within him. "Together," Jake echoed, taking a step beside Rachel, fists clenched. They combined their strength, channeling every ounce of courage into a single unified front. Their bond shimmered in the air, glowing like embers igniting a flame, while their fears whispered desperately for recognition from the depths of the shadows. "Enough!" The creature reared back, fury igniting its features. "You think your little connection can overpower me? I consume souls, turn dreams into nightmares." But Jake and Rachel held firm. "You don't own us," Jake shouted, the weight of their shared will unleashing a tide of energy. "We refuse to be transformed by fear." With that declaration, they charged forward, hand in hand, beams of light emanating from their touch as they raced toward the encroaching shadows. Felt like running straight into the eye of a storm, yet they pressed on. They would break through. Together did I end those final moments of the fray. The darkness recoiled, twisting away in visceral fear of the brightness they radiated. As they approached the shadowy hand, it rippled and flickered, dissolving like mist in morning sunlight. For the first time, Jake felt a tangible shift, the weight of anguish and despair loosening. They reached the rift, a pulsating light that beckoned them closer. "This is it," Rachel urged, trembling but resolute. The mirror had shattered, remnants scattering like pieces of lost dreams. "Jump!" Jake yelled as they leaped forward together, exhilaration and terror intertwining in one desperate heartbeat. In that instant, time slowed. The air around them exploded with warmth, wrapping them in an ethereal glow. The shadows screamed, a harrowing sound that echoed long after. Then there was silence, a heavy stillness that enveloped them, soothing and freeing as they landed. Jake opened his eyes, blinking against the brightness. They were back in the real world, outside on the bustling city street, surrounded by snippets of life, the warmth of the sun beaming down, laughter in the distance. They stood hand in hand, but they were both trembling, heartbeats sinking an echo of their near escape. "We made it," Rachel breathed, looking up at Jake with wide, astonished eyes. "Are we really free?" For a moment, uncertainty flickered in Jake's eyes, but then he felt it, a surge of warmth, the boundless light that pulsed between them. "Yeah, we are." Despite the heavy weight of everything they had faced, there was an undeniable spark of hope swirling in their chests. It felt suffocating yet beautifully liberating. But as they stood together, a new determination anchored in Jake's heart. "We can't leave anyone else trapped there," he said, conviction heavy in his voice. "We need to warn others." Rachel's gaze sharpened, realization dawning in her eyes. "You're right. We have to tell everyone the truth, the dangers lurking within those doors." Suddenly, a flash caught Jake's attention. The reflection in a nearby window shimmered. Just for an instant, he saw all the other faces, a myriad of lost souls, trapped in twisted expressions. The whispers echoed again like distant memories. The truth surged through him. They could do something, change someone's fate. "We promise," he said softly but firmly. "We won't let darkness win." Rachel squeezed his hand tighter, their resolve solidified in the grim determination to fight for those still lost. As they turned to walk down the street, the sun blazed brightly above, illuminating their path. Ahead, the memories of the Salon, the whispers of the trapped souls, would forever remain within them. But so would the strength they found within each other. Together, they could make a difference. With every step forward, they resolved to light their way, to face challenges, and confront the darkness bravely. They wouldn't look back. They would forge ahead, determined to help heal the unseen scars left in the wake of that sinister beauty salon. And just like that, life called them back like an unfinished story begging for a chance at redemption. But for now, they were free. Remember, the shadows can't extinguish the light of hope. Now, before you go, don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now to be part of this journey. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help others see these wild adventures. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about Jake and Rachel's brave escape. And finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support and let us keep this amazing community growing.